losing or leaving a job can feel like losing part of your identity. Even promotions or like dream jobs come with like imposter syndrome and uncertainty because you feel like, you may be on top of the world, or you feel like, that they put you in a position that you weren't ready for, or all of these different scenarios that may or may not run through your head. But yeah, especially, with trying to completely do something completely different at a certain age, it can be terrifying, right? I mean, specifically for me, I went back to school 10 years after I graduated high school, which was absolutely terrifying. But now I see that, it helps a hell of a lot more just to have that degree rather than not having that degree. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Everything's Okay, a mental health podcast brought to you by Crazy Ant Media. Today, we'll be diving into the topic of major life transitions, like becoming a parent, going through a divorce, or making a big career change, and all of the emotional toll that the shift takes on your mental health. As always, I'm joined by my father-in-law and co-host, Dustin. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic today, and I'm really excited about this episode because this one I think is going to reach a lot of people. Because man, let's be honest about it. This one is a great one for us because we've run the gambit. We've gone through marriages, divorces, births, deaths, career changes, moving, like you name it. We've had a major life transition, and how has it played in our mental health? Sometimes really good, sometimes not so good. So yeah, I think this is going to be a really good one because it's all about how you look at things, right? We talk about that all the time, and I can't wait to jump into this one. It's like, but sometimes if something is good or if something is bad, it's how you react to it that chooses that. And so I think that's going to be fun to talk about, because you're not always in control of that event that happens to you, that life-changing event, but you are in control about how you react to that event. And that goes a long way in determining your mental health, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Because I mean, big life changes can be exciting, but they can also be disorienting, even if things can shake your mental health during this time because we get so used to routine.
Oh, without
And
doubt.
once our routine is just a little shaken up or big shaken up, we go deep down into a spiral sometimes. It's all about adaptability and balance to be able to figure everything out. But I mean, the core definition is a life major transition is any significant change in your identity, routine, or responsibilities that impact your emotional and psychological state. I mean, we have a couple of different ones that we want to explore. And I think the first one you can really touch on because I'm not there yet, but parenthood. I mean, you've gone your whole life, just trying to figure out who you are as an individual, how you want to pursue life. And now you have to literally start from the ground up with nothing and teach this kid the rights and wrongs of what you learned in your life and how to get them to present themselves in their lives.
Absolutely, but you also have to understand that you're there as a guide and you can try to guide them with advice about what you did and didn't do in your life, but it's their life. And at some point, you have to understand that too. I think that's difficult and can cause a lot of mental anguish for parents because they want what's best for their child, and sometimes their child will make mistakes, and you have to be like, well, that's their life, and you got to so. And on the flip side of it, they could be just like soaring, and you've got to be there and be like, so that's difficult. But you're right. First and foremost, when you find out your child is coming, your entire life changes because it is no longer about you. For the next 18 to 22 years, it is all about them. Every decision you make, every move you make, every literal thing that you do has to be, what does it do to them? How is it going to affect them? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is how it is. And I think this is really hard sometimes too for young parents. you are no longer the center of attention. It ain't about you anymore. Nobody wants to talk to you. They want to talk to the baby. Nobody wants to see you. They want to see the baby. Nobody wants to hear about how your day was. How was the baby? And that is really difficult sometimes for people to mentally like understand that shift. What am I doing wrong? Why doesn't anybody like me anymore? Why doesn't anybody care about what I'm doing anymore? What about what I want? What about what I need? And you just have to understand that that's the normal shift. That is how it happens. And you have to settle into that. And like your schedule changes, what you do in your life changes, yeah, how you perceive what you can and can't do or control changes. It's literally everything. For example, when I was pursuing the film career. I was like, this is what, and the second I found out your wife and my beautiful daughter was coming, I was like, uh-oh. Well, this ain't gonna pay for that baby to come, and it sure ain't gonna pay for her after she's here. What do I do? And you have to make a split. Like, this changes everything. I can't do this anymore. I have to do this or I have to do that. And that can lead to some stuff. That can wholeheartedly lead to resentment. That can lead to grief or depression because you're no longer allowed to do what you thought you wanted to do. Now you have to do this. But again, it kind of goes to what I talked about in the intro. It's how you react to it. You can go down that hole of you're bitter and resentful now because you can't keep chasing your dream at the moment, right? Let's clarify that. It's at the moment. Doesn't mean you have to give it up. Doesn't have to mean you have to walk away from it. Just means at that moment, you're choosing to do what you need to do. And you can go that route and be ugly about it. Or you can say, this is the greatest thing that's ever going to happen in my life. And this is my world now. And this is what I have to do. And I'm proud to do this. That's the decision between whether you're mentally anguished or in glee. And for the rest of your life, this will always be your greatest accomplishment. And so that would be my advice. And it's something that you have to look at. And I'm sure at some point you'll deal with this. It's one of those things where you have to make the decision, and both have to make the decision. Is this what we want? Are we ready? If we're not ready, can we get ready? Or do we have to step back and say, maybe this isn't the time? Maybe you really have to look at it, because it really does drastically change your life for 2 decades at least. And then you like to say that that's it, but even after they're out of that, that's still your baby. It's the rest of your life that it changes. But yeah, I mean, so I personally, I still look at it as that is the single greatest accomplishment of my life is seeing her born, seeing her succeed in life. That is the thing I take the most pride in. I don't have a single regret for delaying my career. I wouldn't change anything. But it's different for every situation and for every person. And it's something that can really, like I said, change the world.
Yeah,
Like,
most definitely. Completely agree. Because, yeah, I mean, speaking from the woman's point of view, they have to change their diet. They have to change how they eat. They have to change, like, how they sleep, particularly, like, if, like, they're having a rough pregnancy, all of these different things. And then there's things that are just out of your control that you have to adapt to. Like, God forbid that what your baby was born and had to go into the NICU for some certain
yeah,
reason, like I was just listening to a podcast with another comedian who just had a baby, and the first, I think he said, like 6 weeks their baby was in the NICU because they could hear a heartbeat, but the baby wasn't moving, and she was
yeah.
like 8 months along. So the doctors, the OBGYN, was like, no, we have to deliver this baby now to make sure that she's okay. But everything turned out fine. She was fine. But yeah, I mean, you have to adapt to all of the different struggles that come across with certain things of having a child. Like for example, that particular interview, she now has like a feeding tube in her belly, so they feed the baby up like probably I think they said like 60% through the
Mm.
feeding tube in the belly that goes straight to the stomach, and the other 20 or 40% they try to feed through a bottle natural way. So yeah, just to be able to adapt to certain situations, especially when you're going through something. This particular host talks about all the time that he was 1 years old, or the baby was 1 year old when they split up. The parents split
Mm.
up. So now he was not only a new father, but now he's a new single father. So to be able to balance that at the same time, because when you are a parent, you're a single parent, especially those early days, like you have nobody else to call, you have nobody else to lean on, like that is right there with you going through it every second of the day. But when you're with somebody, like I said, at the very infant stage, you have somebody to lean on and talk to about these things and navigate, hey, what worked for you, what worked for this, like, so it's all about adapting to your situation and continuing moving forward and continuing learning, because there's going to be endless knowledge out there about being a parent and growing into someone who you want to be when you look up. But yeah, man, I could only imagine at the infant stage trying to be a single parent when they're very, very young. I could, oh, hard, very
Yeah,
hard.
very hard. And I wanna, because I think this is really important, and I don't think people say this enough, especially when it comes to mental health. When you become a parent, it isn't all about how it affects you and your co-parent. It also affects everyone in your life.
Hmm.
And that kind of going back to our last episode, you might start to feel guilty or feel bad or feel like you've let somebody down if you can't go see them. Right? I sorry guys, I couldn't get a sitter for the baby. You start to feel like maybe you let your friend down, or you let work down, or you need like so. I think it's really really important to understand that when you become a parent and parenthood and that shift in dynamic with your mental health, it's not just you, it's all the people around you that are associated with you, because that changes also. And you can't just go into it thinking, how is this going to change my life? You have to go into it knowing that it's going to change the relationship dynamic with the others in your life as well. Now, thankfully, most people understand that, but you'll get one here or there, I promise you, you will, that won't understand it and will try to lay the guilt on you. Let that go. Let that go, or you're going to go down a really dark hole. Just let that go. Your priority is that child and your happiness. Don't let that guilt from somebody else because you didn't make the poker night. Don't worry about that. But I wanted to make sure that we clarify that, because it really does change the dynamic of the relationships in all of your life, not just you, the partner, and the baby. It's everything.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of different situations that would put yourself like completely out of whack, right? With all of these different big life changes, like a divorce or breakup. Even if it was the right decision, with divorce, it comes grief, guilt, and a total shift in daily life, like loneliness and depression, anxiety, just trying to navigate how you proceed moving forward and how you're trying to get yourself back up to not only be good for yourself, but be good for the others around you. Because if you can't get yourself back on track, and if you can't like get your mental well-being back to a place where it's decently okay, you shouldn't enter in another relationship,
No.
because then that one will be started off of grief, guilt, loneliness, abandonment, and that would put that burden on that other person who had nothing to do with the situation. So I can only imagine. I mean, I know there's a lot of anger. I know there's a lot of dismay, but yeah, to try to overcome and get out of that situation, I can imagine can be very, very difficult.
Well, I think again, it's funny because this episode it's parallel. It's tying into our last episode. I think that anger comes from failure.
Hmm.
You perceive yourself as, I don't care if it is the right decision. If you think you did, anybody that goes through a divorce, both sides go through that state where they feel like they failed at it. It was a failure. And nobody wants to admit that they failed at marriage. Nobody wants to say we didn't make it work. We weren't perfect. We weren't everybody sets out with the best till death do us part. But the reality of the situation is sometimes you're brought together for reasons you're not even aware of. And but it's a dark hole because I don't know a single person who's ever gone through a divorce that at some point doesn't view themselves as a failure.
Hmm.
Especially if you're a parent. You feel like you not only did you fail the marriage and fail yourself and fail your partner, but you failed your child. And so that plays into it heavily. And so I think that's where that anger stems from. And that can get pretty seedy sometimes. It's like, and then you direct that anger because you don't want it on you. So then you start to wrongly direct the anger. And that gets ugly real fast and starts changing the whole mental dynamic of everything, right? And you do ride the highs and the lows. I will say, going through a divorce, you are depressed, you are angry, you are anxious, you like you name it, you will any sort of mental health issue or topic or how you want to address it, you go through it all in divorce, all of it. The highs, the lows, the ups, the downs, the sideways, everything. So it can drastically change your life. I know for me personally, I retreated. I was like, well, that's it. This is the end of the rope. I can't go chase my career. I can't. I'm just stuck in this job I don't want to be in anymore. And I don't have the life I thought I was going to have or the family dynamic that I thought it was going to be. And so I gave up. And you can't do that. You can't let that happen. You got to be like, again, it goes back to what I was saying at the top of the show. It's how you address it. It's how you would deal with what happened to you. And giving up was not the right way to deal with it. And I spent several years in that give up mode, where I was just getting up every day and plodding a life that I wanted no part of. I was not happy. I was severely depressed. And I chose to deal with it the wrong way, not looking at it like what opportunities are now there. What can I take from this and learn from this, or where can I redirect, or how can I? It was no, it was first it was anger, then it was a pity party, then it was depression, then it was anxiety about will it ever be better? Will it So it yeah. Hopefully you never go through that. I would be crushed because I love my daughter dearly and you dearly. I don't ever want that to happen. But you can't go into it thinking that it won't. Because that goes right back to our last episode of nothing is perfect. And anybody who thinks that marriage is perfect is just plain wrong. You have to work at marriage. You have to work at a relationship. Even if you are soulmates, even if everything is great, you are going to have an argument. You will disagree on something. Something won't go right. Something will happen that you both react differently to. You better be ready for that. You better understand that that's going to happen. And if you're not willing to put in that work, you are going to head down the wrong track there. And that, again, will affect everyone around you's mental health. So just know that. Just know it ain't perfect. It ain't perfect. Even the best marriages, the people you hear about married 50, 60, 70 years, they were high school sweethearts, ain't perfect. They'll tell you it wasn't perfect. They fight every day. So just be aware of that. And I think that'll go a long way in your mental health stability in a marriage and maybe survive either going through a breakup or not ever having to go through the breakup or divorce if you approach it that way, knowing that it's never going to be a perfect situation.
Yeah, completely agree. Because, yeah, a lot of things can happen in life that will take you off course. Like I said, like a career shift or a job loss or a big move or different things that enter into your life unexpectedly. And, you have to be able to adapt and move forward. But I mean, losing or leaving a job can feel like losing part of your identity. Even promotions or like dream jobs come with like imposter syndrome and uncertainty because you feel like, you may be on top of the world, or you feel like, that they put you in a position that you weren't ready for, or all of these different scenarios that may or may not run through your head. But yeah, especially, with trying to completely do something completely different at a certain age, it can be terrifying, right? I mean, specifically for me, I went back to school 10 years after I graduated high school, which was absolutely terrifying. But now I see that, it helps a hell of a lot more just to have that degree rather than not having that degree. So many more different positions will open up because of that. So definitely looking forward to that. But at the same time, it's like I wish that it wasn't a waste of time, but I wish I would have gotten my act together sooner the first time around and been able to just power through and get through the year and a half or 2 years for the associates. Or if I wanted to pursue a bachelor's, pursue that. I wish that I was mentally more prepared to enter in that way of thinking where I'm at now. But it's all a learning experience. It's all a journey, and I don't regret any of it because there's so many great memories and so many great things learned the hard way through that. But with chasing your dreams, like you'll see it all the time at the very beginning and throughout the whole process until you make it. You are broke. You are spending money that you don't have. Credit cards are a necessity, and it becomes terrifying. And you feel like, where's that light at the end of the tunnel? But you have to keep that positive perspective because you have to know that your hard work does pay off. You will meet that right person. You will get that meeting or get that interview or get that email that you've been looking for so many years at the certain point in time. But like I said, it's all learning experience, and being able to continue moving forward one foot in front of the other is the most important part.
And I think, I've said this time and time again, and I'm a firm believer in it, and I'm pretty sure you are too. That everything happens when it's supposed to happen.
Hmm.
You can look back at it, and like you said, and say, I wish I had been this, I wish I had been that. But the fact of the matter is that you probably didn't go to school right out of high school because you weren't ready for it. You
Hmm.
were meant to learn lessons before doing it. And you bring those lessons into it, which makes it a better experience, right? I think that goes back to one of our way early episodes about societal expectations. There is a societal expectation that when you graduate from high school, you are immediately supposed to start college. That's just not true. That you can start whenever you want to. You can stay as long as you want. You can quit if you want to. That expectation that it has to be at this age, at this time, at boom, 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 boom. Don't hurdle yourself into that, right? I think coming back to this episode, a lot of these drastic life changes that cause such mental health anguish, we self-impose because of those expectations, and we get ourselves into things that we just shouldn't be in at that time, and then we get ourselves into trouble, and it causes a major life shift. It causes you to lose a job or not go for a job, or whatever the case may be. And it's because of those societal expectations and those self-imposed expectations. It's like you said, this is a journey, and everybody's journey is different. So to set a timeline as if everybody has to meet that same timeline is ridiculous. Like, your journey is not this person's journey, so your timeline will not be that person's timeline. If they went at 18 and you go at 26, hey, oh well, yeah, and I think that's where people really need to focus, because when you start that comparison stuff, when you start living up to or trying to live up to the expectations of what society says you should and should not be doing, or what your parents say you should or should not be doing, or what your friends say you should or should not be doing, you get into trouble. It's what do you want to do when you want to do it. And as long as you're being responsible on that path, that's all that matters.
Yeah, completely agree. Because I mean, a lot of things can come from the impact of big life decisions and big life changes, like identity confusion. Like, who am I now? I'm not a spouse, not working, someone's parent. You have anxiety, the uncertainty of what you are, or what if you mess this up? Depression of feeling numb, low, or empty in the aftermath of a major shift. loneliness, of course, with transitions that often disrupt social circles and routines. Like if you and your wife were in the same friend group and then y'all get divorced, and then like the friends kind of have to choose what friends they're going to be friends with, that type of thing. Like for example, we're just watching Four Seasons on Netflix, and it's exactly like that. And they introduce a whole new, love interest, and then the love interest has a baby, but the guy who it, it's hard to explain because nobody has seen it. But yeah, if you watch the show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And but you just get overwhelmed with all of these different things, even small tasks that feel like that everything's in flux. So it's important to continue to remember that everything's a journey, everything's a process, and the world keeps turning. Even though your world you feel like may or may not be in shambles, but you have to continue picking yourself up and making changes that you feel like will make you happier in life, that will make you greater towards your goal, different things like that. Because I remember when I didn't make the decision to move to Mississippi in high school. That was very difficult because I missed out on a whole year without my family that I grew up with. And I had to basically learn to become my own man, become my own guiding person, because like my father figure was gone, and all of these different things. But through that process, I knew that if I put my mind to it, no matter what I had to do, I could get through something. So you don't know the lesson when you're in the situation, but
That's
when the
right.
situation is older or almost over, or you're towards the end of it, you realize, oh, this is what this was about. This is why I went through this. And we're not a religious podcast, but we are spiritual. And I always say, God wouldn't put anything in front of you if he knew you couldn't overcome it. So I feel like that is one of the most important things. And you have to normalize the mixed emotions. You can be grateful and grieving at the same time. Be grateful for that person who may have passed away. Be grateful for the times you had. You can be mad at them if they did take their own life, but you have to know that the only person that is now affecting that anger is you. So you have to learn to let that go and cherish the moments that you did have together. So to balance all of these things, it's very hard. It's very hard. That's why we do these conversations, so we can try to figure out this stuff. Hey, plot twist, we're selfish and we just want to figure all this shit out. If
Yeah,
you know the
exactly.
answers, email us at info@crazymedia.com.
Exactly. And you know what though, I want to go back to, cuz I think this is important too. And it's kind of like your circle. Who do you have in your life? Because support systems are important. And hopefully if you're going through that divorce or that breakup and you are within the same circle of friends, that circle are just good people. They're like, you know what? We're not even going to pay attention to you saying this and you saying this. We like you both, and we're just going to be friends with you both. And you guys deal with this, and we're all still just going to be friends. And if you can find those people, that circle of people, you're in good shape. That just means eventually because you're a good person too, and they know that. And they're there for you, regardless. We're going to go to this party and this party. Or if both of you are here at our party, we're okay. We're kind of like, find those people. That would be my advice. Find those people because your circle is important.
Yeah,
That
most
it
definitely.
really is. that's the best thing I can say because in any of these life transitions, new baby coming, divorce, you got a new job, you're starting school, somebody died, you need people because you can't do it all on your own. Your mental health will suffer horribly if you don't have a support system. So yeah, it's important to make sure your circle is solid.
For sure, man. For sure. Well, speaking of a support system, some people trust us to be partially their support
Yes.
system. That's for sure. So we did get some emails in from a couple of different people this week discussing this topic. So, Dustin, you want to take that first one?
Yeah, Alyssa. First of all, I love the name. She was my crush. But like, not this Alyssa. I don't know. I have no idea who this Alyssa is. But she's a listener, and I'm glad. Alyssa, 33 from Texas. And yeah, I'm glad you gave me this one because I know. She says, hey, Dustin and Logan, I'm a new mom and I feel like I've disappeared. Everyone's focused on the baby, but I feel invisible, anxious, and honestly kind of lost. Anything or thoughts on what I can do? Yeah, I don't think enough people realize, I think the dad and the uncles and the aunts and the friends and all that, they feel like they're being ignored now. But even though mom is with the baby all the time, they too feel like they're ignored because it is all about the baby. The husband comes home and all he wants to do is play with the baby. It's like, who cares how your day was? Like, give me the baby, kind of thing. So, Alyssa, yeah, that's a tough thing to have to deal with. And things that I really want to say to you is you're not alone. That is a real thing. So don't feel like this is some kind of thing that you're going through that, no, you must feel bad about this or you must just be going and losing your mind because nobody else. Everybody has to deal with that. Young moms, there's a reason postpartum depression is so real because it's such a flux on the woman. You've just gone through all these hormonal shifts and all this crazy stuff to bring this beautiful child into the world. And so you're already dealing with all that on top of the now that nobody wants to see you, they just want to see the baby. So you're okay with that. And you know what? It's okay to say, Auntie, take the baby. I need a night. Just babysit. Me and hubby are going or for dinner, or I'm going for dinner. That's okay too. Don't ever feel selfish for saying I need something because you do. You're working 24/7. Mothering is probably the hardest job in the world, hands down. So you should never feel selfish for saying I need a break or I need something from you. Don't be scared to ask. I think that's the biggest advice I would give to you is don't feel afraid to ask for something that you feel you need. And don't feel you need the validation for needing it. That this is how you feel, this is what you need, ask. And if somebody can't give it to you, then again, that goes back to the discussion of are you in the right circle? That's all, So you're right there, though. Hang in there. It's going to be a blessing. I promise you, Alyssa. It's a blessing.
Exactly. I would say find small pockets throughout your day to decompress,
Yeah.
play a song that you like if it's in the headphones, so you can vanish into your own little world. When you go to the bathroom, just try to meditate a little bit while you're taking a fat dump. I don't know. Just, being able to find that time where you are completely by yourself and being able to connect to something that you love and that you need to get out of your body. So I think it is very important. We did get another email from Marcus, 42 from Seattle. He says, "Hey guys, I just got laid off last year, and even though I've found freelance work, I feel like I'm failing. I used to be a breadwinner, and now I just feel like I'm not myself."
Mm,
Ah, man, Marcus, I know that can be very difficult, and I'm sorry you're going through that. I would definitely say that know that your job does not make you the person who you are.
that's
It
right.
doesn't give you self-worth. I mean, yes, it gives you stability financially, but it doesn't give you stability of love and stability of attention and stability of happiness because you seek that in other forms of passion, love, and people. So I feel like, surround yourself with people who you love and that will support you. And I'm sure like somebody it is hopefully you've networked throughout your life. Somebody has something opened up at a beginner level position or something that you'll be able to do something that you kind of enjoy. I think that's very important. And I mean, because even productive transitions can come with grief. It's okay to mourn them and it's okay to mourn that old version of yourself, but remember to keep picking yourself back up and keep moving forward because rushing anything does not fix it. You have to take your time, you have to go at your own pace, and you have to make sure that you're truly happy and excited about what you're trying to do in life. Because once you lose that excitement, once you lose that passion, then what are we doing it for?
Exactly. And I would say this, Marcus, 42 is the new 22. Use this as a springboard to find out maybe you were just in that job because it paid the bills because you referenced breadwinner and my question would be were you in the job because you were making decent money but really hated it. Use this opportunity to find out maybe who you really want to be. This is a whole new start and you're just a young guy, man. 42 is like nothing. You got a whole lot of years in front of you. Play. Like try this, try that, try something new. Maybe who you were destined to be you haven't even realized yet. So just look at it as a springboard and an opportunity. Like Logan said, you don't have to rush into anything. Try a little here, try a little there, and you might be surprised that maybe that job wasn't meant for you anyway. And and your big thing is still to come. So if you look at it that way, I think you're gonna get through it much easier than holding on to what you thought was important. Maybe not. Maybe this just wasn't for you.
Completely agree, man. Completely agree. Well, we got to say big thanks to Alicia and Marcus for being vulnerable enough to share their stories. And, if you're in the middle of a big life shift, just know that there's no right way to go through it.
No,
Okay. You just have to, like I said, continue moving forward, one foot in front of the other, one pinky toe in front of the next. So that is very important. But as always, you guys know this podcast is dedicated to anyone who is going through or had or in the future a mental health uphill battle. It can be very difficult sometimes, so it's important to find your people, find your things, find your passion, find something that just eases your mind. It's very important because we have to be happy going through this life because you only get one. January, whatever date this coming out, but January 6th of 2025, there's only one, so you have to remember that sometimes. I know we get so caught up in life and get rounded out, and it can be difficult. It can be very difficult. Life can hit you in the face and you lay there for a second, but keep moving forward, as Rocky says.
that's right.
But yes, we thank you everyone for listening. If you have any other emails, please share to email us at info@crazyantmedia.com. The social medias are at everything's OKP. And as always, my friends, remember that everything's okay.